Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato, and today we're going to be talking about how radically out of touch the average liberal is in America. And we're going to be looking at this post by Glenn Greenwald and talking about just this poll from Harvard-Harris. And so Glenn Greenwald says, a newly released Harris-Harvard poll conclusively demonstrates how radically out of touch is liberal corporate media with the views of Americans. It's not just that corporate media rejects Americans' views, they don't permit those views to be heard. So I talk about this a lot on my show, which is that there is an Overton window, which is the allowed thoughts and allowed things you can speak about. And the media and entertainment really decides what is considered taboo, so outside of that Overton window, and what is allowed, which is within the Overton window. And so let's see what this poll has to say. So to start, majorities of Americans say it's false that Trump colluded with Russia. The Steele dossier is also false. In other words, they view the story of the U.S. media aggressively centered for 3 years as a hoax and a fraud, yet NBC and CNN won't even air this view. Okay, so we see that the majority of Americans disagree with mainstream media. And it wasn't always the case. It was before alternative media arose, before the internet became widespread and people just had cell phones and access to the internet on their phone. Before that, people did agree with the Overton window that was imposed upon them by the mainstream media. But now we are seeing that there's a really radical decoupling between what the mainstream media wants people to believe and what people actually believe here. So the Trump collusion story does not make any sense when you look at his actual actions. It does not have any evidence to substantiate it, but we know from psychological research, and again, if you know my background, I have a doctoral degree in industrial and organizational psychology. We know that if you tell people something often enough, they will start to believe it's true, okay? So just blatant repetition can help be very persuasive for people. And so that's what they're trying to do here, and it's still not even working for the majority of people. Let's see what else Glenn Greenwald has to say. So Americans also believe that the materials on the Hunter Biden laptop are real and are not and never were Russian disinformation. Yes, it was absolutely real. We even really knew it at the time that it was not something that was stolen. And the person who actually had the laptop, he was harassed to the point where he had to flee his business and stuff like that. It was really horrendous how they treated him for doing something that was completely illegal. And the intelligence community lied. They just blatantly lied about what happened there. And now they are slowly admitting that everything that people believed initially was actually true, and they were just trying to gaslight you. So again, more and more lies by the American government, by the intelligence community of America. So again, Americans view the claim that the U.S. corporate media and CIA spread for weeks before the 2020 election to help Biden win as a fraud. That's really shocking to me, which is that it's really shocking that they're allowed to do this. They're allowed to obstruct elections like this when it's so blatantly obvious that the things that they're saying is just not true. Next, we have majority of Americans also believe Hunter Biden engaged in criminal influence peddling using his father's name. I mean, there's no way you could even briefly look at the Burisma stuff and the Ukrainian stuff and just the amount of evidence there and not believe that there was some criminal activity going on there. It was very obvious there was criminal activity going on. And it is concerning that the FBI is not investigating these crimes. Joe Biden participated in Hunter's illegal influence peddling and profiteering schemes. That is obviously the case given some of the things that he said. It goes on to say large majorities of Americans say they are not surprised to learn the FBI abused its power in 2016 Trump-Russia probe to help Biden. That should be very concerning, though, for everyone involved here. It should be concerning for the government that they've lost control of the people and of the trust of the people. And it should be concerning for the people that their government is so overtly working against them and their interests, or at least how they perceive their interests to be. It goes on to say large majorities also say they are deeply worried about the U.S. security state's manipulation of U.S. politics, and sweeping reform is needed. Sweeping reform is needed. It's not going to happen, though, because it's a structural problem, and I don't think it can truly happen in the United States without some sort of revolution. Again, I'm not espousing revolution. I'm just saying if it's a structural problem and there's interest groups involved that benefit from that structural problem, it's going to be really hard to dislodge them through non-revolutionary means. Going on, it says large majorities of Americans have serious doubts about Biden's mental fitness to be president and believe he is too old. It is really concerning to me that the baby boomer generation and older generations, because Joe Biden came from the generation before baby boomers, that these people are still in power in the United States. They've driven the United States off a cliff. Their policies were so bad. It was the sacrifices of people that came before them that made America so prosperous. And it's that saying that good times create weak men, weak men create bad times, et cetera, because it's really the case that the baby boomers in particular and the groups that the baby boomers serve and who serve the baby boomers, they really destroyed America. And the fact that they're still in power, despite the fact that they've clearly set America on a trajectory of terminal decline, it makes no sense. They should be turning over the reins to younger generations, but they realize that younger generations will try to do things to correct the course, which I don't think is possible, but they would at least try it. And correcting the course would mean fewer benefits for the baby boomer generation, who are living a life of luxury as they pass on. And I've heard baby boomers say this, that like the United States is falling off a cliff, but at least they won't be around to see when it actually becomes a disaster, which it's very concerning to me that they would say things like this, because they have children, they have grandchildren, but for them, as long as they get theirs, they're completely fine with passing away, taking as much as possible from the American system. I don't understand that mindset at all, but that is genuinely how the vast majority, overwhelming majority of baby boomers think, and they are still in charge of the American government. So it goes on to say here, unsurprisingly, then Trump leads Biden by 7 points for 2024, and Kamala Harris by 11 points. So even his VP is more popular than him because he's senile. She's also rambling too, so people don't like her overly much. And then people absolutely despise Trump, a large segment of the population do. So all of these people are not representative of the American people, but those are the choices available to the American people. Let's see what else we have here. The three political figures who are viewed most favorably by Americans are Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and Ron DeSantis. Bernie is next. I don't agree with any of these choices. Bernie Sanders, he's betrayed people with his endorsement, his support of Israel, when he's supposed to be a peace candidate and supposed to be stopping genocide. Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, they are completely subservient to Zionist interests at this point. They're just doing everything possible to be slavishly loyal to Israel at the expense of Americans. And Elon Musk it's embarrassing how the Zionist influence is just raking him over the coals right now, just giving him the full humiliation treatment. But again, these are our options. These are our most favorable people right now because they're terrible options, unfortunately, because I had high hopes for Elon Musk. So it goes on to say Musk has by far the highest favorability gap, plus 14. AOC's is negative 13. Mitch McConnell, negative 24. I completely agree with that, right? Tim Scott and Vivek are plus 7. I barely know who Tim Scott is, and Vivek, he's just trying to ride the coattails of Donald Trump, so I don't know what the importance is of him, but I mean, he seems like a decently likable guy. It goes on to say only 40% of Dem voters say they intend to vote for Biden in the Dem primary. That's embarrassing. So you don't even have a majority of people in the Democratic primaries willing to vote for the clear candidate for the Democratic nomination. So going on, it says, for whatever reason, the poll excluded the challenger near 20%, RFK Jr., but even many Dems say Biden lacks mental fitness and they don't want to vote for him. That's horrible to think that this is the current state of America. It finally wraps up with what's so striking here is that the corporate media relentlessly advocates views and ideologies that majorities of Americans, often large majorities, reject. And that's not always been the case, as I said. They create the Overton window. And it wraps up with, it's that the views held by majorities are all but banned on NBC, CNN, New York Times, and Washington Post. Thus, this is not a mystery. So just my final thoughts on this, it's just hugely concerning that we are at this point where the overwhelming majority of Americans cannot trust their media and have viewpoints that are completely not in alignment with the media. I'm not saying that the media should completely parrot what the populace wants, but it's clear that the media is getting their talking points from their bosses, who are the oligarchs in charge of the Western world. And because they're getting their talking points from them, they are not representative of the people. The people want certain things in order to have a better life for themselves, in order to have a better future for their descendants, things like that. And it's very clear that Obviously, the oligarchs in charge of the West don't care about any of that. But it's also very clear that the media, their interest, their perspective is more in alignment with the oligarchs. Thank you so much for investing your time in watching this video. If you found the content informative, be sure to show your support by giving us an upvote. Your engagement goes a long way in boosting our visibility within the algorithm. To stay ahead on the most pressing contemporary issues, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're committed to delivering up-to-date, thought-provoking content on a daily basis, and we want you to be a part of this journey. Also, your thoughts matter to us, so please share any comments, questions, concerns, and/or critiques in the comment section below. I personally read each one and I respond when necessary. Given the nature of our content, where we expose the actions of the oligarchs who exploit the masses, intentional suppression in the algorithm is an unfortunate reality. If you believe in our mission, you can help by spreading the word. Tell your friends about our content. Let's amplify the voices of those that challenge the status quo. Speaking of amplifying voices, I need your help. As many of you know, I gave up a lucrative career in the fastest growing field and the highest paying subfield of psychology in the United States to move to the Philippines to provide content that I think is important for my viewers to hear. I left so I could avoid repercussions for speaking about topics that are taboo in the United States. This decision came with significant financial sacrifices, but your support can help sustain the work we do. Check out the links in the description for how to support our channel. Every contribution, big or small, is genuinely appreciated. Finally, as a channel, we stand with the people of Palestine. We believe in their freedom, and by supporting us, you can contribute to this shared vision. Thank you for being a part of our community. Your viewership is invaluable, and I genuinely hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.